Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order at 1:31. First up is approval of the October 2nd minutes. Are any changes on those, and are you okay approving them, Councilmember Bergan?
I'm good with those.
Okay, I am as well. Next up, Bill Levine, September 2025 sales tax chart.
Good afternoon, committee. I'm here Bill Levine with the Budget Office, here to talk about sales tax, and thank you, Candace, for putting up the chart. For the month of September, we collected $25 million in sales tax, and that amount was 1.1 million or 4.7% more than what we collected in September 2024. So that's relatively good news. We'll focus a little bit on that box sort of in the top right under the Aurora symbol. That's our year to date where we stand. And so we are about $145,000 below projection. So through the first 9 months, that's where we stand. And I guess I wanted to sort of say a few things about that. You could look at that and you could say, all right, we're on the knife's edge. We might finish above, we might finish below. That's one perspective. Another perspective I wanted to give you is that, gosh, that's a really good estimate. Good job on that projection. And actually, I say that somewhat sarcastically. We do have 3 months to go, and when you look at those results on a monthly basis, especially these last couple months, we have a minus 3%, we have a plus 13.9%. 3 months to go, it could go either way, but I guess the real perspective and the non-sarcastic perspective I wanted to give you on thinking about that is that yes, we are likely to finish close to projection. It might be above, it might be below, but I did want to highlight, stepping back from just sales tax, if we look at all general fund operating revenues, we're currently $5 million above projection. So if you're concerned about sales tax, I would step back and say, I'm not concerned that we're going to meet our general fund operating revenue projection for the current year. We're close enough to the end, we're far enough ahead. The odds are very strong that we're going to make our projection. So I would like to allow you all to sleep well at night, and then we can go sleepless if we want into next year. To talk a little bit more about what's driving the growth in September, once again, we had fairly strong variable sales tax collections. We collected about 1.1 million from variable sales tax payers. That was about 54% or $373,000 more than we collected a year ago. So that's been a kind of a theme of this year. We've seen that most months, and we're seeing that again this year. To close out, again, just a discussion about sales tax. When I looked at the sector results, they're fairly mixed. For the month of September, we had actually, of the 15 sectors that I analyzed, we had 9 of them that showed declines. Now, you've probably heard me say this, and I will say it again. I tend not to overfocus on 1 month because there's just bigger pictures to see. So I think a year-to-date analysis is a little bit better. And on a year-to-date basis, we had 8 of 15 sectors are up and 7 are down. So still somewhat mixed. The sectors that are doing the best are industrial sales, and that's one where we get a lot of variable sales tax. So these large one-time business-to-business transactions have really been helping industrial sales, which is up 189%. So big returns there. Electronics and computers are up 30%, and once again, variable sales tax is a big component of that. So I'm not sure if it's data centers. It's my suspicion, but I think we do have some businesses that are out there buying large pieces of IT. And the final sector, and these are really there are 3 that are driving most of the growth, other top taxpayers. And just to sort of explain why that one is growing, Amazon fits in that category and has consistently shown a lot of growth. And so sort of that trend of online sales growing is, I think, a big part of why we see the other top taxpayers, one of those sectors that is showing growth. With that, that is the end of my presentation, but happy to answer any questions that the committee has.
Great, thanks, Bill. Councilmember Bergan, any questions?
Just, I think I asked this last month on the online. I think you were going to try to look at the sectors online to see where the greatest was. I don't know if that, or is that even doable?
That is doable. I should double check. I actually had intended to send something, so I will double check that it has been sent. And if it has not, I will give it a kick and get it sent. But I track about a dozen top taxpayers, and it sort of backs up what I'm saying and what you would suspect, which is they are growing faster than sort of the broader category of everybody. And that picked up quite a bit during COVID when I looked at it. So 2020, 2021, we saw really exponential growth in online sales. Again, not particularly surprising, but we have data to support that. But it's grown since then too, but not at the sort of the very, very high rates we saw for those 2 years. But again, I'll give that a kick and make sure that that gets your way. That data.
It could be me buying clothing online. I don't know.
I'm certain that's a big percentage of it.
Absolutely. Council member, if you look at your 1013 email, Bill did send it to all.
Oh, he did. Okay, 1013. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
And it
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, it went to the entire committee.
Great. All right, Bill. Appreciate it. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you all.
Next up, 2025 Fall Supplemental Budget Request Ordinance. Tyler Phillips.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Tyler Phillips, Budget Program Manager in the Budget Office. Today I'm speaking about the 2025 Fall Supplemental Ordinance. In the Budget Office, our goal is to minimize surprises by ensuring that most supplemental items are reviewed by Council in advance, either as part of the 2025 projection included in the 2026 budget, or during committee or regular Council meetings. Details for each request are included in your packet. As you've likely seen, the supplemental includes a relatively small number of requests across multiple funds, with most in the Capital Projects Fund. All items with a significant impact on fund balance were projected, and the few that were not are technical to appropriate new grant awards or to make accounting adjustments with no impact on fund balance. So rather than go through each request in detail, department representatives are available to address any specific questions that you may have.
Council Member Bergan, any questions?
No, I don't have any. Thank you.
I don't either. And are you okay moving this forward? Okay, that'll move forward. Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it.
And Councilmember Coombs.
And I
is
am
on
here,
now.
Oh.
Councilmember Gardner.
Yeah.
Great.
But I don't have any questions, and I'm
Sorry
good.
about that. Are you
That's
okay
okay.
moving it forward?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it. Next up, Outstanding Moral Obligation Report. Teresa Sedmak.
Good afternoon. I am here to give you 2025 Outstanding Moral Obligations Report. And just first of all, to review, a moral obligation is a non-binding statement of the City Council that they're going to support a certain obligation. It's not legally enforceable, and in any event would be subject to appropriation, but it allows investors more comfort on bonds that may not get a high credit rating on their own. It's viewed by the investors as a contingent financial obligation. The decision not to appropriate funds in the event that the obligation was called upon would look bad on the city and quite likely have credit rating implications. So if you did not appropriate for a moral obligation, if you did, it would probably come out of the general fund. And if not, it could impact funding of other city projects. So for that reason, the decision to enter into a moral obligation on any obligation should be supported by evidence that it's a good risk to the city or a limited risk to the city. And that's what those considerations are outlined in the moral obligations policy, which has been included in your packet. I'm happy to go into the moral obligations policy if you'd like. I want to tell you about the one existing outstanding moral obligation that the city has. We had two last year, but one of them matured. So now we have one, and it's on the convention center and parking facility at the Hyatt in Fitzsimmons. In 2013, when they were entering into the construction of the facility, we provided a moral obligation on a loan to that project. The original loan matured in 2024, and at that time, if it hadn't been refinanced, it would have required a balloon payment of $24.3 million. In order to avoid that balloon payment, we refinanced the loan in 2022. We now are with a $20.64 million par outstanding, and that matures in 2039. So unfortunately, the project is not producing revenues to satisfy debt service. In lieu of drawing on the debt service reserve that was put aside for the moral obligation, we have been funding that with AURA funds. We are projecting that it's going to be about $1 million this year in subsidies from the city to that project. And we do not see any decrease in that being in that required commitment going forward. So it's just not cash flowing. The projections are not good for the remainder of this year and into next year. But it is a project that City Council thought was important to the city. And so continue to support it. And again, we have not drawn on the reserve, partially because that would be might be considered a credit implication if we drew on the reserve. So we've been funding it out of other available funds. So I am happy to answer any questions you might have on that outstanding obligation or the policy. But that concludes my report, and it's for information only.
Great, thanks. Councilmember Bergan, any questions?
I do. I remember questioning this before when it came up to offer the moral obligation when they couldn't make the balloon payment. So you said the new date is 2039,
That's correct.
but they're not producing revenues.
Not sufficient to make the debt
Not
service. That is
sufficient.
correct.
So at what point do we look at like we're going to end up in the same situation?
Well, so far we haven't had to go into any general funds. We've used available AURA funds. If those were not available to subsidize the project at the level it needs to be subsidized, we'd probably come back to council and ask for an appropriation of other funds.
Okay, so you foresee the 1 million kind of being like ongoing though? To subsidize?
Who knows what the future holds. But right now, all travel is down, and it's not specific to this facility. It's kind of general to the whole hospitality industry. And who knows when that will change? I can't give you an idea about that, but we know this year it's going to be about $1 million.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Coombs, any questions?
Yeah, so I think my only question is, at what point would we look at reserves as a potential source to address the ongoing costs? And would we consider that prior to dipping into other general funds?
Well, again, we would come back to the city council if we didn't have funds to dedicate to that project. If it came to the point where we had to either invade that debt service reserve or subsidize that with other revenues, we would come back to city council to make a decision on that. I think that would be something city council would have to view their opinions on.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Teresa, for the presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up, for tobacco and age-restricted psychoactive product retail licensure, Trevor Vaughn.
Okay, thanks. This proposal is sponsored by Councilmember Medina and Hancock. I didn't see either one on at the moment. I'll go through the mechanics of the proposal. I know that the advocacy for the proposal has reached out to the council members regarding the basis and reasons for seeking this proposal locally. So this is a proposal for a retail licensing ordinance at the local level. There is a state tobacco retail license in place. As part of that, when we took a look at it, we also looked at ways to perhaps improve upon that. And a couple of things of note in recent years is that the state now requires that kratom products be sold to people over the age, or at least of the age of 21. And same with certain hemp products as well, but did not put those behind a licensure structure. Given that those products are sold in the same location, we're proposing that that could also be covered by the tobacco retail license to ensure that those products are not sold to youth. So the proposal primary purpose, some of the statistics here that came from Aurora Partners for Thriving Youth about students not being refused due to age and youth usage. And then this would create a license with the requirement of twice annual compliance checks to make sure that retailers are not selling to those under the age of 21. Secondary purpose of this is addressing some of the safety, crime, and social disorder issues around the outlets and making sure that that doesn't happen. Dealing with density of smoke shops, including addressing paraphernalia and psychoactive products, and including adding some additional teeth behind the ordinance that Council recently passed on non-scheduled psychoactive ingredients and drug paraphernalia implements. And then formally addressing some of the problems we've seen around hookah lounges as well, potentially using this as an opportunity to address those as well. And then issues with targeting low-income areas, including EBT fraud, which we've seen a couple examples of that, and then just building that into the proposal as well. So again, going beyond kind of what some of the state requirements are and perhaps addressing some of the other issues that we've seen that have not been addressed by the state licensure. Keynotes of this: there is no flavor ban. There's no product ban proposed as part of this. No kratom ban. We're just going to align with what products are allowable under state law is the current proposal in here. And then existing businesses would be grandfathered from any proposed distance restrictions. So current framework, state law is, and really federal law is 21 and over for tobacco, kratom, and specific hemp products. These are hemp products that contain between 1.25 milligrams THC per serving and 1.75 milligrams THC per serving. Those hemp products are only to be sold to people 21 and over. I don't see a ton of those products, but there are some of those out there. Generally, what I'm seeing more of is still the illegal products that should not be sold in the state at all that we're still pulling from shelves, or straight CBD products. And this would require their state license compliance checks currently happening right now. Now they're only doing tobacco products. They're not checking for kratom sales or hemp sales. They did not assign that responsibility to the division that had the resources to do it, which is the Liquor and Tobacco Enforcement Division. Instead, they assigned kratom checks to the Attorney General's office, which does not have particularly a ton of resources to go out and check all the retailers of kratom to make sure they're not selling to youth. Other cities do have a local tobacco retailer license, including Denver, Broomfield, North Glen. There's the list there. And Aurora's proposed license would be a little bit unique in that we try to address a few other issues with this proposal, if passed in its format. Differences from the state that are proposed in this ordinance would be a more aggressive penalty schedule. The combined license to include those age-restricted products, and also paraphernalia. Tobacco paraphernalia is restricted to be sold to people 21 and over. Marijuana paraphernalia is prohibited to be possessed by people under the age of 21. The argument here is that perhaps that paraphernalia should also fall within the licensure framework, since it shouldn't be in the hands of those under the age of 21. Compliance, again, adding an element of civil enforcement for the non-scheduled psychoactive ingredients and drug paraphernalia implements, and then enforcement of that marijuana paraphernalia. If there is one product prohibition in here, it is that we suggest and propose in this ordinance addressing trade infringing products appealing to youth. These are pictures from inside Aurora stores of what's really intellectual property that's been taken and turned into various pipes and drug paraphernalia without the permission of those that own that intellectual property, and having those removed since they appeal to youth and are basically stolen intellectual property. Additional operational standards. We're Similar to liquor, saying that if you have deleterious impacts on the area and you're not dealing with drug or prostitution loitering, addressing those. We do have outlets where we have some of these issues that do not have a liquor license. So if they had a liquor license, we kind of have these tools. There was a study out of Los Angeles, 2017 study, that did find a correlation between smoke shops and crime, similar to that of liquor stores, and also a number of situations with corner stores. And we've seen that locally too with some of this activity, and providing more encouragement to address it. Also requiring the ability to inspect books and records, very similar to liquor. There's a good reason for that. Including bypassing state taxes through unlicensed wholesalers. I've actually seen a fair amount of this using drop shippers or guys with a van. I think you could argue there are probably several arguments here, but we do know Colorado does have high tobacco excise taxes. So simply bypassing that by bringing in products out of state, we do see that happening. Prohibition of SNAP EBT fraud, so we can address that when we see it happen. We have seen some of that. Good moral character, and ensuring that the people that hold the license are of good moral character and not having at least a recent history of criminal activity. Now, the standards for that good moral character would be the same as liquor, where they're under state code, they're able to show, if they've had an ancient felony or something that was unrelated, they can show that they're rehabilitated. And potentially have that opportunity to hold the license. But if they're engaged in current criminal activity, that would be a problem. And we've seen some of that be an issue with the hookah lounges. We had somebody that was a convicted drug dealer open a hookah lounge and proceed to continue to deal drugs and have legal activity going on at that hookah lounge, including in the middle of the night involving shootings. And then if council does pass that socioeconomic impact permit ordinance, this allows for easier enforcement of that ordinance, because that talks about sale of controlled substances. So they would at least have to come to the city before they engage in selling those controlled substances, rather than going directly to the state. Inspection of books and records, because we are finding substantial illicit products out there in the city at the various vape stores and some of the corner stores and others. There is a pattern of refusing to disclose the source of the products. What I suspect is there's a fair amount of guys with a van driving around distributing these products. And also that's been seen at the distributor level as well. So requirement that they show us their books and records and where they're getting this stuff, so we can continue our partnership with state agencies in pursuing the source of these products. And these are some examples of those. You've got that boom bar, which is actually marked as containing psilocybin. That was for sale in a vape shop. You just got some, you've got this THC product that says contains marijuana. That was in a vape store. Random gummies, these types of things. Still finding quite a bit of these products. Spacing requirements that are proposed in this ordinance would be currently 1,500 feet from schools. It's currently 500 feet under state code, 500 feet between incidental product sellers. So we create some classes of licenses, do it a little bit different than the state. We have a class called incidental product sellers, which means that the sale of tobacco is kind of secondary to the primary business, or the sale of these products, let me say that, is secondary to the business. So like your convenience store, grocery store, and so on, where they really have, a plethora of other items. We have a vape store, smoke shop license proposed, which really means that products should be primary, hookah lounge license for the indoor, and then a what we call a premium cigar lounge license as another category. So 2,000 feet between vape and smoke shops. The reason for that distance restriction is that that's what's proposed under the socioeconomic impact ordinance, but it is also what we used to have for liquor stores prior to then dropping down to the state requirement of 1,500 feet. So 2,000 feet, based on that study that showed that, crime and impact similar to liquor stores, potentially proposing a 2,000 feet distance restriction there. Throwing out there a potential 2-mile distance restriction between hookah lounges. Basis for that being we have 6 hookah lounges in the city. We closed 3 last year So we had 9 hookah lounges and 3 due to illegal activity. And so we do find that hookah lounges, when they start to concentrate, start to race to the bottom, and feel pressures to allow after hours behavior, alcohol consumption, and drug activity in violation of their requirements. And so that potentially makes it a little more valuable to have a hookah lounge license. Exemptions, we would have grandfathering for the existing businesses. Premium cigar lounges would be exempt. The thinking being there, those don't really appeal to youth because they're expensive and kind of controlled environment. And then new large format grocers to encourage them to locate within the city, except obviously they'd be limited by the state requirement of 500 feet. Hookah lounges, as I mentioned, we had 6 licensed. We have 1 pending that would be allowed. 3 closed last year due to significant violations. And then just proposed standards. We have a 2 a.m. closing. Currently, all our ones are required to close at 2 a.m. It's a condition we place on them anyway. That would just formalize it in here. We do prohibit alcohol and drug consumption on there because they're not licensed for that. Just making that they now have something a little bit more standard to risk here. And then clear line of sight into the business at night. We find this to be a problem with hookah lounges that engage in illegal activity. They block their windows to conceal it. And so that's saying, just keep that line of sight open, and then having good standards and that good moral character requirement so we don't get another actively drug dealing hookah lounge operator that causes a number of problems. Premium cigar lounges. This is actually an image of a mobile premium cigar lounge that we've had operating in the city that, they've got their signage up there, no one under the age of 21 on that. And so this would still be permitted, including mobile. We have 2 permanent ones in the city, and just keeping most of the distance restrictions would not be applicable to them, and just kind of setting them almost aside is the proposal. One note on the distance restrictions I want to make sure I cover is we did not include distance restrictions from youth-oriented facilities. Only schools, some best practice say youth-oriented facilities. That gets a little bit difficult to administer, and in some cases you're talking preschools or daycares with the way the definition is, which is probably not a high risk of going out and acquiring these products at that age. So it's not in the current proposal. Okay, so aggressive penalty structure is proposed in this ordinance. This is kind of a comparison to what the city would have versus the state. First violation would be a $1,000 fine. State is $250, and you kind of see the escalation from there. This is within 36 months of the city, within 24 months of the state. So fourth is revocation there, but you can see it maxes out at $2,650 on the 3rd violation. Notable elements not in the ordinance, as I mentioned, there's no flavor ban proposed in this, no distance restrictions from the youth-oriented facilities, does not prohibit the mobile cigar lounges, so it doesn't put them out of business, and does not include the state's ban on exterior vape product advertising. The reason is we've got some questions about overall the constitutionality of that, but the state does enforce that ban on exterior advertising on the exterior. But we figured it might be best to let that get tested out at the state level if there's a challenge to it. As far as the implementation, there's 335 retailers approximately in the city. That's our guess. We continue to find a few here and there that don't have a state license and sometimes don't have a city business license, but we're sorting that out. That would be 272 incidental product retailers, 55 smoke shops, maybe up to 59. We still are trying to classify as we go into these where exactly we think they land based on the definition of a vape shop. There's been a few we've kind of changed one way or the other. We have something called L&A Market that was clearly a vape store that originally we thought would have been a convenience store. So still adjusting that. So 6 hookah lounges, 2 premium cigar. We're proposing a $500 license fee. This is a substantial workload to implement this. So we believe we need to add a staff member, most likely a supervisor in my function, in order to handle the paperwork and enforcement associated with this, because you're talking about 335 good moral character licenses. So it would need to be implemented over a period of several months to get that done. And so that would provide the financial capability to do so. All right. And with that, that is my presentation. I'll turn it over for questions.
Councilmember Bergan, any questions?
I do. I guess I don't really have so much a problem with the license. It's more on the spacing requirements. So you said, so first of all, our convenience stores then are in here, right? With the distance?
Yeah, they'd be incidental product sellers, so subject to the 500-foot.
500
restriction.
foot.
Yeah.
But not the 1500?
Oh, they would be subject to both 1,500 feet from schools, 500 feet from other retailers.
Okay, so a
it's-
convenience store, a 7-Eleven just needs to be 500 feet from another.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right. And then on so currently, how do you've closed some of the hookah lounges, right?
Mhm.
So is there, I mean, is that a big process to close them currently versus doing it this way with the license?
Yeah, similar. It'd be a very similar process. You know, closure of a business is always a big process, you know, as far as workload and effort. Very similar, you know, right now we use the general business license and we pull that when they're engaged in illegal activity. This does create, you know, if there's benefit here, it kind of creates that barrier to entry a little bit, you know, including the good moral character requirement. So there is some additional kind of leverage and requirements that go along with it because you're talking about, you know, having an additional license on top of it.
Okay, and then also on the so currently with any kind of so current, is this similar to alcohol establishments?
Yes.
Okay,
Uh,
so
This
so if
new
you
license
have
is-
if you have a liquor license, you are already bound by a lot of this?
Yes, liquor license requires good moral character. You know, it has a requirement of not having what we could say deleterious impacts on the area. It's called conduct of the establishment. So those two provisions, very, very similar, you know, that we'd copied basically from the liquor code.
Okay, and then have we heard from this sponsor? Councilmember Medina? I guess, is Councilmember Coombs co-sponsor?
Medina and Hancock.
Oh, Hancock, okay. So have we heard from either one of them? I don't, you know, from where it came from last month to this, in terms of any kind of changes?
I have not gotten any changes from what we'd had initially proposed to present last month.
I mean, we have heard obviously from people that are concerned about some of the convenience stores, and I was just wondering if they have reached out to the sponsors to make any changes.
Not that I've heard. I did have a meeting with Medina was on one of the meetings I had. I'd attempted to try to get in touch with maybe who was concerned. I didn't. Nothing has flown my way.
Okay.
As far as any proposed changes or concerns. I think some of the concern was that maybe there was a flavor ban involved here,
Right.
which there was not. So there may have been a misunderstanding, but I have not had direct conversation with whoever
Yeah,
that
I mean,
was.
there's obviously concern of financial impact. And I'm not 100% if that really is viable. I'm concerned more because I think, I mean, obviously if they're, you know, having illegal activity happening, whether it be a vape shop or a convenience store, nobody should be giving out products to our youth. So I don't have a problem with penalties. I don't have a problem with closing them down if they're doing illegal activity. I just want to make sure that that we're not overly, you know, enforcing. So that's all from me.
Yeah, that's the penalty
Yeah, I mean,
structure.
we
sorry,
are
go ahead.
overly enforcing. I've heard from folks in the industry, this would probably be the most aggressive tobacco licensing ordinance in the entire country. As Trevor alluded to, it goes significantly further than Denver and the state in a lot of cases. So yeah, this is 100% overregulation. Trevor, so how much does the city of Aurora pay to be a sponsor or a partner with Aurora Partners for Thriving Youth?
I'm not aware of any city contribution to it.
Well, if you go to Aurora Partners for Thriving Youth website, we're the third organization listed under partners is City of Aurora.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the
Okay,
answer to
well, we
that.
need to find that out because otherwise it sounds like we're spending taxpayer dollars to lobby ourselves, basically, which is, certainly not appropriate. Councilmember Coombs, do you have any questions?
She had to drop off, Councilmember Gardner, and
Okay.
left a message in the chat.
Okay, Councilmember Bergan, I assume you're okay moving this forward?
I am okay. I again would like to know if the two sponsors have had any outside discussions. So I don't know if this goes on like our next council meeting or if there's maybe some room for any kind of discussions.
I don't know. That would be up to the sponsors. I'm not in support of moving it forward, but obviously the sponsors can bring to study session if they'd like.
Yeah, and note on timing on that is that currently we're looking at not bringing this forward to study until January for various reasons. So that does provide some time for any discussions if there's concerns.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Trevor. Appreciate it. Next up, 2026 internal audit plan, Michelle Crawford.
Perfect. Candace, can you pull the slides up for me? There should be the PowerPoint slides as well. So good afternoon, Michelle Crawford, City Auditor. Today I'm going to be getting our overview of our 2026 internal audit plans, including our plan development, audit plans, and then other plan updates. To start with, I'm going to go through our affirmation of independence. So the audit standards that we do follow do require us to have organizational independence. Within the audit plan, it does go through in detail how we comply with those requirements, and this is our affirmation that we have met those requirements for this year. Go to the next slide. Audit plan development, our standards also require us to develop a risk-based plan to determine our priorities. We accomplish this using risk assessment surveys, interviews, reviewing prior audits, reviewing other reports and assessments, research, and then assessment of our own resources and competencies. Just a reminder on our staffing. So our staffing includes myself and 3 auditors. One of those auditors' hours is designated towards police audits. We have started estimating low and high end audit hours to try to determine how many audit engagements we can complete each year. However, a lot of these areas have never previously been audited, and so they may exceed estimates as we get into them. There are 2 2025 engagements that are going to be rolling into 2026. This includes police property evidence, which has just started. We've also expanded the audit objectives on this one to include DNA evidence, cold case evidence, the check-in, check-out processes, and then disposal processes. Additionally, the service provider review audit we do expect to start before the end of the 4th quarter. Next, we'll go through some other plan updates. There are 2 plans being removed from the 2025 plan, the Housing and Community Development Compliance Review and Core CCJRA. We were able to get to these engagements this year, and based off of other higher risk areas, we are taking these ones off of the plan. Next, I'm going to go through the 2026 proposed audits for citywide. The first is Aurora Water adjustments and account changes. This was selected as employees can adjust customers' accounts for leaks and update customer account information. Without proper controls, adjustments and changes may not comply with policies or expectations. We've also not previously audited any areas of water operations specifically in the 11 years I've been with the city. This review will assess controls and compliance with leak adjustments and changes to customer accounts. Next is residential development inspections. So multiple departments do perform inspections of residential and other development areas. When processes span across multiple departments, opportunities may exist to leverage standard practices and systems, increasing efficiencies. This review will assess standard practices, the standards being used, and systems across departments. Workers' compensation review. This was a 2025 audit and is moving into 2026. Workers' compensation is a highly regulated program which benefits our employees, and we have continued to hear concerns about the program. This review will examine the system utilization and the timeliness in processing and responding to claims from employees. Court administration. So we do plan to conduct an audit of a compliance or a process area within court administration in 2026. Due to some of the current structural changes, we are only identifying planned hours in this plan. As we approach the start of this audit, we'll assess the highest risk area and then develop the related audit objectives at that time. We'll then share those areas with this committee as we begin that audit. Purchasing card follow-up. So we are wrapping up our purchasing card audit, and we have identified significant non-compliance with purchasing card policies. Additionally, the city implemented a new purchasing card system and process in the third quarter of 2025. This proposed audit will review any new processes and purchases for compliance with policy and follow up on the audit recommendations from the audit we're finalizing currently. Small Business Development Center compliance. So during the SBDC leadership transition in 2025, there were some concerns identified around data integrity. New procedures were then implemented to improve controls. So this review will assess those new controls over data entry and approvals. Next, we'll go through the 2026 police audit engagements. The first engagement is police response time. So our office did previously review police calls for service in 2023. In 2025, the police department's made significant changes to its priority responses. It's improved and began tracking its response times. And then Aurora 911 implemented a new police priority dispatching protocol. Getting the right response to incidents in a timely manner is critical to life and safety. The review will focus on response times and also follow up on any outstanding recommendations. DNA processing and handling. So this is a 2025 audit moving to 2026. The state has passed various pieces of legislation relating to the processing of sexual assault kits. Timely processing of DNA evidence is crucial to victims in the prosecution of cases. This review will focus on ensuring that DNA evidence for sexual assaults is processed timely and complies with state regulations. Facial recognition technology. So the police department is planning to begin using facial recognition technology to identify suspects. The state does have regulations around this and requirements about the use of this technology. Additionally, other agencies have used this technology without proper due diligence, leading to individuals being falsely identified as suspects. This review will focus on ensuring the department's complying with state law and internal policies they've developed. Next, we're going to go through risk observations. So these are areas where we've identified potential risks, but they were not selected for a formal audit for a variety of reasons. These are risks that city leadership and this committee should be aware of and may need to address outside of our office completing an audit. For the citywide risk observations, these are detailed further in the audit plan itself, but these do include fleet, Aurora 911 overtime staffing and employee wellness, workday, information technology and security, court administration systems, facilities, continuity of operations, consulting services and outsourcing, and physical security. For the police risk observations, these include detective oversight, fleet, and the booking process. That concludes the presentation. I'm happy to answer questions, and our question to this committee is if you affirm our audit plan.
Councilmember Bergan, any questions?
Couple. On the police audit on the response times, does that include the non-emergency calls or that go in?
So the way we'll look at that is when we start the audit. So the audit objectives for that one is do response times from the initial call to officer arrival, meet city expectations, policies, and leading practices. Determine if police response times are consistent across district service areas, shifts, and call types, and determine if any prior audit recommendations for categorization have been implemented. So we can definitely look, are you thinking more like non-emergency or like a specific call type?
No, I specifically non-emergency. So I hear complaints from constituents that they are not getting adequate response to non-emergency calls.
Okay. It's definitely something when we're looking at the call coming in to the where it's going and tracking, we can definitely look at non-emergency.
Yeah, and I think Tina, did address that at one of our study sessions or budget meetings, where they're looking at that because obviously it goes through her 911 dispatch center. But yeah, just want to make sure that we are, auditing that. And then the other thing, and I'm happy to hear about the facial recognition technology that we'll be auditing, that as well as the DNA processing. On the residential development inspections, did you say that has not been done in a while? I can't remember what you said.
So on that one, I think it was the water one I said we've never done.
Oh, the
On
water.
the inspections, years ago, we looked at systemic housing inspections. We've not really looked at the inspections where it's crossing multiple departments. And that's what we want to look for on that one is, as we have some of these different types of inspections where different departments are involved with different types of inspections of how it's working. Is there consistency, is standardization, and also is there information sharing happening?
Okay, all right. I think, yep, that was it for me. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. And are you okay affirming the plan, Councilmember Bergan?
I am, thank you.
I am as well. Thanks, Michelle. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Last item, 2025 M&F Policy Committee recap. Terry.
Good afternoon, committee members. And if you look on page 171 in your packet or on the screen, you can see the list of the various items that were completed in 2025 with your leadership and assistance. So thank you to the committee for all your hard work. I did want to call out just a few items. We did do two significant bond financings this year, the animal shelter, as well as the sewer bonds, which is just about to wrap up with financing pricing. And then we'll close that transaction before the end of the year. Other items, if you'd like to call them out, we certainly can. We do some of these as a routine matter of business. As you're aware, the Management and Finance Policy Committee does serve as our audit committee. So you are updated each year from our external auditors as well as the internal auditor. We provide various updates on sales tax and revenue and where we're at, as well as very specific items related to metropolitan districts, human resources, and information technology. With that, I will just say thank you to the committee for all your hard work and looking forward to working with you again next year, hopefully.
Yeah, I would echo that. Thanks to the committee members and primarily thanks to our staff. Makes serving on this committee easier, and you all do such a good job being organized and running the city well and all those things. And so, great job to Terry and you and all your team and everybody who presents regularly. Thank you for all your hard work. It's always good to, I think, to look back on what we've done. Sometimes it's kind of hard to remember. And so seeing the list that shows that we have accomplished a lot. So, but yeah, great job, Terry, you and your staff and everyone from the city. You all make this job much easier. Councilmember Bergan.
I would just echo the sentiments. Thank you to the staff for doing an incredible job. A lot of times people do not sign up to be on the Management and Finance Committee because so much goes on in this particular committee. So anyway, just thank you. I might put out that list just so constituents that we do some work.
Yep, for sure. All right, appreciate it. Thanks, Terry. And then lastly, we have a meeting tentatively scheduled for December 4th. So we'll have that on the calendar for now, but Terry, in the next week or so, let's connect. And if we don't have anything that we need to get on before January, we'll go ahead and cancel that. But if we do, then we can hold the meeting. And so does that sound okay?
Yeah, I have it on my calendar. Sorry.
That sounds great.
Okay, sounds good.
Just one more thing. I forgot, we do have one quick informational item on another financing that was recently completed. And I think Mitchell Stamp from our Treasury group is going to provide that quick update for you.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mitchell Stamp. I'm a senior debt treasury analyst here in the finance department. Every year we go out for financing on vehicles and equipment. So that could include like fire trucks, police cars, things like that. This year we wrapped up ours. We posted a RFP on BidNet. We got 8 responses. A lot of them are relationships that the city has built since we've been doing this. The rates ranged quite dramatically, especially with the way the economy sort of looks right now. We ultimately selected Bank of America with a 3.31% annual interest rate, and we'll be making semi-annual payments on those. To provide kind of perspective on the range, The highest rate we got was 4.12%. So we're talking about close to a whole percent of difference. Typically, we look for the rate and prepayment options. In the past, we don't usually prepay early, but in case we do, we typically want it to be favorable to the city. With Bank of America, it's 2 years of waiting, and then we can prepay in full without paying a premium on it. A lot of the other proposals, there was some sort of premium tied to the outstanding principal balance owed. Lastly, I just wanted to say, the day before we closed this financing, we had a substitution of a piece of equipment. And so it kind of took us a bit of time to scramble to rework the paperwork, the documentation, all of that stuff. Bank of America was really good about wanting to close the deal with us. We've worked with them on last year's deal and on 2022's deal. And then I also just wanted to shout out our legal counsel on the outside, QTech, and Mario Trimble, and then Jason Simmons from Hilltop Securities. Especially with 1 day turnaround to closing, they had to kind of work into the night to help finalize all of that. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Great. Appreciate that. And thanks for kind of pointing out all the work everybody put into it. That's exciting to hear. Councilmember Bergan, anything?
No, good work.
All right. Thanks, Mitchell. Appreciate it. All right. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.